Jim, another story that has come out the last few days, and I haven't followed it too closely. I have an article here from CagesideSeats.com by Sean Reuter on the injury.
Is he the guy who founded Reuters news service?
I would tend to think not. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be on Cage Side Seats. He'd probably be on a yacht.
He'd probably be dead, right?
Or dead, I guess, now that we think of it. But this is an article about the injury to Shinjiro Otani. Let me read a little bit here and get your thoughts on it. Our latest reminder of just how little margin for error there is in professional wrestling came from a show held yesterday, as of print time, April 10th, in Tokyo Sumo Hall. During the main event of Sunday's 0-1 show, Shinjiro Otani was facing the promotion's World Heavyweight Champion, Takashi Sugiura, in the main event. The 49-year-old Otani took a German suplex into the turnbuckle, then was unable to continue the match. He was taken out of the building on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital as fans were asked to leave. The referee told Tokyo Sports that while Otani was conscious and able to see and hear, he couldn't move and reported not having sensation in his hands. An update came today from 0-1 president Takahito Kami. Here's a quote. "It hasn't changed. He's conscious, but can't move his limbs. Currently, he's being treated by a doctor. As for the official diagnosis, we are waiting for a reply from the hospital." Jim, I know you're not a big Japanese wrestling fan the last couple decades, so I don't know how much of Otani's career you would have seen or followed, but have you followed this story at all, and what are your thoughts on another injury, another neck injury, seemingly a spinal injury, I guess we could say, clearly, in wrestling?
Well, I saw the clip of the incident, and I read some of the same stuff that you've just read there. I have not followed Otani. Don't wish him any well. But again, the clip I saw was a guy, he already looked like he was blown up, and they'd been doing the Japanese match where they hit and headbutt and chop each other and boom, boom, boom. And this guy, he doesn't look, I don't know what his current situation is, his training methods. He looked to me like an old, fat Japanese man that 50 years old, and suddenly the guy he's in there with goes behind him, waist locks him, and German suplexes him backwards into the turnbuckles. And apparently, that's what they were trying to do. Now, that would have been the first thing that you would have learned in wrestling school not to do 40 years ago or 30 years ago or whenever I got into business, or probably any reputable school today. But there ain't that many of them. But now that there's a thing where they buckle bomb people. I remember that's what gave Sting a stinger, no pun intended. And
against Seth Rollins, that's right.
Against Seth Rollins, buckle bomb. And that's you're right side up, and your head's supposed to be going over the top of the turnbuckle if that's done correctly. Still fucked him up. They're German suplexing people where the back of their head hits the turnbuckle. And that was the first thing you used to learn was see what's behind you and make sure you're not doing it. Tommy Young's career as a referee was ended when Tommy Rich grabbed him and started backing up like he was going to argue with him and stumbled and fell backwards and brought Tommy with him. The forehead hit the bottom rope, snapped his neck back. He was done. As a referee, still to this day, if you pat him on the back, he'll get fucking electric shocks down his arms. So they're already doing this stupid shit that there's no call for because it looks dangerous. Imagine that. We'll convince these fucking fans that we've already told in blatant detail how phony all this shit is by doing something really dangerous. And I saw the bump, and it's not a smart thing to do, and it obviously fucked him up, but it wouldn't have been in the top 7 most dangerous looking things I saw on last week's AEW show. It just happened to be the right one. on a guy who's probably had a lot of mileage on his body because of the way they work over there to begin with. And he's 50. Did we mention that? And he didn't look in the greatest physical condition. Maybe I just had a bad camera angle. I'm sorry if I'm maligning a guy, but he didn't look like Nick Bockwinkel 50. He looked more like goddamn Necro Butcher 50. So, again, I don't know it's not surprising anymore. And I don't know what's hard to understand why this is happening. And everybody feels bad about it now, but nobody thought to feel bad about it before it happened, when somebody might have said it's a good idea that you not German suplex that guy, or the guy that was getting German might have said it's not a good idea you German suplex me on the back of my head in the turnbuckle. But past that, what are you going to do? So, and it's the whole idea is not to just trade moves on each other that really hurt and or strikes and or whatever and stand there because you have some blithering simpleton idea about you're strong or you're violent or you're whatever because you're standing there letting somebody hit you in a fake fight for real. And the only reason that this stuff gets by in wrestling these days is because it's gone so far with the de-evolution of our business that nobody watching expects it to make sense or to look real. All those people, the 8 million out of 10 million that watched up until 20 years ago, they've all gone because it's insulting for them to watch it now, because it's just stupid, because it's guys doing shit to each other on purpose for no reason. And now they're all getting hurt and going to the fucking hospital and getting paralyzed. And this guy got paralyzed in Japan. And it wasn't on one of their major television networks. And I'm sure it'll get some news, but probably not front page news in the whole country. They got other shit going on over there these days. And Antonio Inoki or Giant Baba's not involved. What's going to happen when somebody gets paralyzed on live network national TV over here? That'd probably make some news. And there's contracts coming up due with a variety of the companies in the next year or two. So why don't we get back to start telling some stories with matches that they can believe about people they dislike or do like, and make the shit look good and sensible so a casual person could be drawn in? Or we can just keep headbutting each other like the geniuses in Japan do until they've all got brain damage. Your thoughts, Brian?
Were you at center stage the night Tommy Young got hurt?
Yes.
Was Tommy Rich impaired?
Probably. He was he in the ring? Was he walking? Was he talking?
Because Tommy Young, I read an interview a long time ago where Tommy Young basically said he thought Tommy Rich was impaired, but they couldn't prove it. So that's why he wasn't able to sue.
It was a clusterfuck all the way around, because that was center stage was a great place to have wrestling, except WCW was constantly screwing something up, either having the wrong equipment come in or the truck wasn't booked. Remember the time that we were supposed to do a TV taping? The Office, the creative team, got there and there were no seats in the building. They were in the middle of renovations.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was concrete ledges with dust on them, and etc. Well, on this night, and Tommy Rich, was he impaired? Probably not. Had he been drinking? I'm absolutely sure he had. Because, like I said, he was conscious and existing in the world, so I'm sure he'd had a few beers. But what happened right before that incident is the lights, the power. Something happened to the power, and all the lights went off for a second. Not all of them. They still had emergency lights on, but the ring lights and all this shit. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And they're in the middle of it. And then Tommy Rich grabs Tommy by the shirt as Tommy Young is pushing him back to argue with him, and Tommy Rich, backing up, stumbles in the dark. and I'm sitting back there because I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then down goes the referee. So the lights have gone off, and the heel stumbles and falls, and Tommy Young goes down and fucking is laying there holding his neck. That was an example of TBS television back then. But no, there wasn't any way to prove it. But at the same time, the fact that Tommy Young had to try to sue, contemplate suing, they ended his career and said, well, here's your check for these 2 weeks. Go home. It wasn't his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. Somebody else should have done something, but no.